My view on the Abraham Accord is that they left the main substance of the issue in the Middle East and did not deal with it, which was the issue of the Israeli occupation of Palestine. And you had Arab countries already before the Abraham Accords, like Egypt and Jordan, they had reached peaceful resolution with Israel. But that left the Palestinian issue still to be dealt with. And then you had the UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco and Sudan saying we're going to have normal relations with Israel. So the elephant in the room was kept in the room, which was the Palestinian issue. But these countries, of course, they had every legitimate right to do what they thought was best for their people, but they didn't deal with the Palestinian issue. And you see the effect now, yani, with all of these turmoil that is going on in Palestine, with death on both sides and killing and destruction and so on. So that issue has to be solved for peace to be meaningful. Abraham Accords did not deal with that.
But people have been trying to deal with that issue, for now 80 years or so, and just consistently try. Like at some point, like can you have normal relations and deal with the issue at the same time?
Well, I think the Arab Peace Initiative that Saudi Arabia presented back in 2002, which was a quid pro quo proposal for Israel, that all the Arab countries would recognize Israel, have normal relations and have diplomatic relations, etc., in return for Israeli withdrawal from the occupied territories of 1967. In my view, that would have been the most viable criteria and proposal to be negotiated between Israel and the Palestinians and the Arab states. Unfortunately, Israel never took up the Arab Peace Initiative, and things got from bad to worse. We had the second Intifada, if you remember, in the West Bank and Gaza, and now we have all these issues about the Jerusalem mosque and Israeli settlers taking a Palestinian land, and Hamas and others throwing rockets at Israel, and Rizal retaliating with bombings, and it's a vicious circle of killing, yani tit for tat, kill for kill. But even in Israel now, we see turmoil internally, because the present government in Israel wants even to have a freer hand in doing what it wants with occupied lands and so on. So it's a very, very bad situation for everybody.
And how do you think how do you think it plays out? If you think of the last 20 years, there has been, at least from like an Israeli perspective, there's probably more peace there than there were in the previous decades before that. So there's been more prosperity with Israel. Israel now has a higher GDP than most European countries, right, on a per capita basis. How do you think it plays out over time? Do you think it's a tinderbox waiting to happen, or do you think it's a situation that will just continue to be managed the way it's been managed?
Well, as we're saying, and in the last few months, simply, and the rate of killing on both sides has risen.
Yep.
So that peaceful interregnum, if you like, between 10, 15 years ago and today, I think is probably coming to an end. And I see the way it's going forward is that inevitably, which something that some Israelis more so than I are talking about, is a one-state solution, where Israel will keep the West Bank and its control over Gaza and so on, while maintaining its military occupation of these lands, and simply keep the Palestinian people from acquiring their independence and their rights as a people, and turning into what already some international organizations, humanitarian organizations, have described as apartheid. Whether it is the Human Rights Watch, or even the United Nations rapporteur on human rights, etc. So that development is definitely neither for the benefit of Israel nor for the benefit of the Palestinians. And keeping a one-state solution will force upon the Israeli citizens to have to make the choice of whether they remain a democratic, free society as aspired by the founders of Israel and as Israel has portrayed itself for the last 70 years or so, or to become the apartheid state. And that, of course, will have repercussions worldwide. Already we see, even in Jewish communities in the United States and in Europe, there is a growing opposition to the Israeli government and the Israeli policy as a result of this manifestation of I would call it settler hubris, that that they can do what they want regardless of international rules and United Nations Security Council resolutions.